We're afraid of what people will think, or we're afraid we're not good enough, or we're afraid we're too much. And so we hold ourselves back. When we do that, we're muting ourselves. And there are too many people that are muting themselves in the world. And I, for so many years, was one of them. I've discovered the power of unmuting myself, of showing up in the world in a way that is joyfully expressed and boldly alive. That's something that has been so important to me as I've discovered how freeing it is to be unmuted, to unmute our body and to unmute our ideas and to unmute our desires, to unmute ourselves in relationships and at work, and to be our own advocates and to ask for what we want and need. The unmuted life is a life that is fully alive and fully expressed and confident and clear. And to me, it's the only way that I know how to live now. I know what it's like to feel confined and stuck and small and silenced. And I also know what it feels like to be expressed and alive and joyful and present and seen. And it's so much better of a life to be unmuted. And that is what I want to bring you into. Are you ready to unmute yourself? Let's make it happen. Hello, 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 and happy Unmuted Monday. I'm so excited to be here today with all of you. I'm really excited for our guest today. We have a lot to celebrate because in Baltimore today, we are celebrating a Ravens win, and we are going to the next round of the playoffs next weekend to play the Chiefs. So super excited about that. So yay for Baltimore, hence wearing my purple pride. Got to celebrate my city, got to celebrate my hometown. Let us know, feel free to drop in and let us know where you're joining us from. It's always great to have, we always have familiar faces here. We always have newbies that haven't been with us before. So feel free to let us know. It's always nice to say hello, maybe let us know where you're joining us from. It's always great to connect through community and have that opportunity to be with each other. Tim, Purple Pride, thanks. Nathan, let's go, right? So excited about it. So a couple announcements before we get started that I'm really excited about. One is I did a complete makeover of my website that's going to be launched next week. So all new photography. I've hinted at this at some posts I put up on LinkedIn. Just complete makeover of my site, all new headshots, all new brand photography. They really represent me. I'm so excited to share this with you all when it comes out. And then another really fun thing is my very first music video is coming out this week as well. So I'm going to be posting that on LinkedIn when it posts. And once it's ready and all edited and everything, we're like 99% there, I think. And it's wild because for me, I think of these things of like, you know, when we say yes to things that we're like, I'm not sure how I'm going to do that, but we just do it anyway. Like I showed up in the studio and I was like, how do you do a music video? Like I have no idea what I'm doing. So that's going to be happening. And it's almost at the 1-year anniversary of my very first song somebody released a year ago on the 26th. So that is not lost on me. Maybe I'll have to launch it on that exact day. I think that's what I'll have to do just as an anniversary celebration. So I'm curious for you, if you want to drop in and let us know, what is something you're looking forward to? This is something that when I'm doing work with leaders and teams, I find it to be a really helpful question for us to ask ourselves because we can get so caught up in whatever is in the moment, whatever just happened that's distracting us, that we can lose sight of, well, what's ahead? Like what's coming next? That's really all there is right now is the present moment and what's ahead. And so when we think of what is something that we're looking forward to, feel free to drop something in the chat, either personally or professionally, that you are looking forward to. Let us know. Like to celebrate those things with you, get excited with you. It's more fun when we can share something we're excited about with another person and not just by ourselves. So feel free to drop that into the comments if something comes up for you. Otherwise, we've got Tim looking forward to a date night tonight. Those are always fun. Date nights are really fun. I appreciate those as well. So yeah, feel free, keep them coming. I know we always ask these questions and then they kind of dribble in throughout. So let us know anything that emerges. Otherwise, what I'm going to start doing is I want to introduce you all to our guest today, because this is going to be, I just think, a really neat conversation that we're going to have because of the energy and perspective that this person has. So let me tee up who we've got with us today. As an author, global brand builder, and compassionate social change maker. How about that? All those words, like, come on now. Like that, this is somebody we've got here we're really excited about. Dionne Joyner-Weems is going to be joining us on the show today. She's someone who transforms challenges into solutions and moments into movements. She was with Visit Baltimore, the official marketing agency for the city of Baltimore, city where we were both born, in 2018 as a chief marketing officer. She left there, and then in 2023, she celebrated her 5th anniversary as the founder and chief energy officer of Audacity Group, a global marketing consulting firm based in Baltimore, specializing in research development to facilitate your brand and communication needs. She's the creator of hashtag MyBeMore and the founder of the MyBeMore Project, a civic social movement that's become a citywide symbol for community pride and collaboration. And then in her recently released book, like hot off the press, end of last year, That Part, What Some Know But Won't Tell You About Motherhood, Dionne shares a deeply personal narrative. She's a proud wife and mother of 3 sons, and her story is a beacon of strength, resilience, and courage. I mean, I'm excited about it. So let's go. Let's bring her up. Dionne, welcome to Unmute Yourself. It's so good to have you here.
Let me tell you about intros. Let me tell you about intros. I know people say, oh, I didn't know you were talking about me, but I'm sitting there like, damn, I like this Dionne chick. Rachel, be more in the building. Be more in the building. Davis, let's go.
Here we go. Yes, I'm here for it. Born and raised in Northeast Baltimore, Baltimore City.
Come on. So West Side, Santan, Winchester.
There we
West
go.
Side certified. So proud. So proud.
I love it. If you meet people from that are from Baltimore, first of all, it's Baltimore. There's no T, right?
I don't know if it's like an accent with the West Baltimore, so you just hear attitude, period. I'm from West Baltimore.
Like, okay. But we're proud. We're proud of our city. And I don't always get to talk to people that I know. Our friend, a mutual friend, Tebow Mannequin, who was on the show, his wife Lola was on the show. Aren't they just?
Thank you.
Yeah. He's a gem of a human. We had him on, I think, back in September. And I have known Tebow since I was, 4 years old, 5 years old. Before he was transforming the city of Baltimore.
He came in like a storm. I'm telling you. And I can see the similarities, Rachel. You are definitely cut from the same tree, the same cloth. I can feel it.
Well, thank you. That's an honor because he's a pretty remarkable person. And for anyone that's like, what are y'all talking about? The episode is on YouTube channel, so you can search Mannequin and you'll find him and Manekin on the show, and you'll find an interview with both him and his wife, Lola, 2 separate ones. So today here, we're here to talk about you. And what I want to talk about, the first question we always ask, that we always invite someone to share, is a story of a way that they muted themselves or the way that they felt muted and a journey that they went on to overcome that. And you can start at any point in time. You can start with something personal, professional. You can tell more than one story. We are here for it because this is space for you today to share your experience with us. So,
first I have to say, for those that don't know, Rachel started off the show behind scenes with a prayer, and it was a beautiful, powerful prayer. And I have to say, when it comes to being unmuted, it's through faith that I have found the strength to be unmuted, because you're serving something higher than yourself. So, what people may be saying about you on the street or on social media, when you serve a higher power, it's like, this shit don't, we're not even in the same realm right here. And it really does. It changes your tone. It changes your perspective. For this to be on a Monday, this is helping me because I'm doing interviews about the book, but you're making me think about it differently. Unmuted. When did this? So for me, it's twofold. For me, my personal belief is that you're living a muted life if you are not working in your purpose. So what I mean is that I'd always had a bright personality. I've
Mm-hmm.
always been curious. I've always been good at collaborating and bringing people together. Um, I've always been creative and coming up with solutions. But I don't, now that I reflect, I don't feel as though any of those were all muted. I did those things and they may have been full color to you. But until I recognized why I was doing those things,
Mm-hmm.
until I recognized why I was doing it, like that I was chosen, I am using my gift to be of service to others, and I'm locked in.
Yeah.
Until that happens, I don't believe my color fully shine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I came into my purpose during motherhood. So those first 5 years of motherhood, I had 3 boys in 2 years against the backdrop. So 2010, so between 2010 and 2015, you'll remember Sandy Hook, the mass shooting in Sandy Hook, the tragic killing of Trayvon Martin. Uh, it keeps going to the South Carolina 9, Freddie Gray. There was just turmoil all around me while I have these innocent, pure, beautiful Black boys under my roof. And I'm asking myself, what am I going to do? Because you had the Sandy Hook, my son was 6 months when that happened. And I think I would have been devastated without having children
Mm-hmm.
and seeing that me having children, it doesn't change the tragedy of that, but it was the response. Like I'm expecting uproarious, we are going, like I'm expecting full stop or some type of compassionate movement.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was met with, or what I was, witnessing, I'm like, this is what I'm sending my boys into.
Mm.
So it was, you get a second chance to live.
Mm.
Um, People always say that you can reimagine yourself, but to others, it can seem like a lot of work. You've gotten to this point, and now you're talking about taking this whole new journey. And it's like, well, how am I supposed to do that? But with having children, you get to relive through them.
Mm.
So I started to meet 4-year-old Dionne, 8-year-old Dionne, 16, 20. Some of the decisions that I was making current day with my children based off of situations, I'm realizing, wait a minute, where is the frustration coming from? Well, let me go back to when this happened with me.
Mm.
But have you ever seen those movies where the movie starts off and they show you one perspective, right?
Yep.
And based off of that perspective, that's what you're going off of as an audience until
Mm-hmm.
they bring you to the end and they show the camera from the left side.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And it's like, oh, from the left side, you see that something happened
Mm-hmm.
that actually triggered the thing that you saw,
Mm-hmm.
and you were definitely impacted by it.
Mm-hmm.
But without that previous knowledge, you walked around as a victim. Where in now looking at it, you realize that, wait a minute, that other person was actually the victim here. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
with time and with lived experience, like I'll say, you'll never appreciate your parents more than when you have children. So, but
Yeah.
but I would say, until I came into my purpose, and my purpose was found through a second life through my
Mm.
children. Um, that's when Dionne gained her full color. That's when she gained her full voice.
Mm.
But there is an instant, which I feel like that's consistent. I'm not saying anything that's different than anyone else's experience. I think the turn for mine is at the age of 8.
Mm-hmm.
So I always tell a story. I'm 8 years old. I've always loved my city. Like Rachel, I've been West Side ride or die all my life. Like it's the Druid Hill Park, the history, like Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Thurgood Marshall. I'm like, you can't tell the American story without Baltimore being a period at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Come on now. And I'm from here.
Yeah.
I'm from here. Billie Holiday as a singer.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this greatest jazz artist. So I tell people I've been marketing the city of Baltimore since I was 8 years old.
Mm.
there were police officers, they're called Foxtrot. And this is so at 8, during the summer, if there's something that's happening, police will send out a helicopter so that it can get an aerial view. And in my neighborhood, I'm an 80s baby. When that would happen, you could come outside and wave to the helicopter pilot, and he would wave down, and I didn't know. So as a child, I'm just getting caught up in the love and the community, and come to find out, like, oh, that was a form of community engagement. Like, if you really think about it, it's a form of engagement. But my mother taught me at the age of 8, Dionne, when you leave this neighborhood, you cannot tell anyone where you are from. You cannot tell anyone your address or your zip code, especially when it comes to school, after school activities, special programs, because of our area code. So for the zip code, because of the 21223 or 21212, you may not be able to experience that which other more privileged neighborhoods gain. So you have to learn how to work the system. You hustle, you figure things out, you use different addresses so that your children won't be denied the opportunity to live, to exist. And my mother made it clear, if you do this, Dionne, you can't tell anyone, because if you tell, mommy will be arrested. Now I'm thinking, because my mother has a way of being dramatic, I get it from her, that this is just a dramatic way to ensure that Dionne keeps her mouth shut. But to understand that that's a real reality. The fact that here it is, if my mother wanting to provide us a better opportunity, but our zip code being a hindrance, her income, the redlining being a hindrance, and to know that as a penalty of her even trying, is her going to jail. And I'm asking, as an 8-year-old, I'm like, what? That makes no sense. I'm sorry. I can't. I'm an Aries. You can't just tell me no and walk away with no explanation. I'm like, come on, explain. And that is when racism started to be explained to me, because how was my mother going to get me to understand redlining? How was she going to get me to understand that because of where we're from and the color of your skin, you're going to be viewed this way? Like, she had to prepare me. And as a mother, I think back now, even with my boys, how do you prepare your children for what can be a cold world to be better and not bitter? Like, how can you teach your child to be aware, but to know that it's not of you? And I have to give credit and love to my parents, because even though where we grew up, it was community and love to me, but to outsiders, now I'm realizing, West Baltimore, Sandtown, what it was perceived by others. My father made it clear to me, Dionne, we're in it, but we're not of it. You are in this, we're in this environment, but you are not of it. It's not in you. And it's I received a form of being muted when I found out the barriers that I was going to have in front of me for the rest of my life. Right? Like, now I can see why, African American women, high blood pressure. Like, I'm like, shoot, you probably got high blood pressure at 8 years old. Like, that's a lot to continue to process throughout your life. But I've always been hopeful. I've always found joy in being the person to solve the problem. I would love walking into a situation and everyone is like, what do you want to do? And I felt like it was like a superpower to be able to sit and just ask questions. Because for me, and I try to tell my boys that, it's not always about the answer. Everybody want to be the first person with the answer. But it was a question. There was some type of curiosity. There was enough compassion or empathy there to go deeper, to follow a thought through further. And I don't feel as though the world gives enough credit for that space and that person. But that's the place that I enjoyed living, and I made it my own, right? I made it my own in the color of Dionne, until then I found out my reason why, this space is my own. And that's when, Audacity, I started my company in 2018, but I tell people Audacity was birthed in 2015. So like I say, it's the first 5 years of motherhood, because in 2015, I'm marketing the city of Baltimore, and we had invested so much in this campaign. And you understand the misperception and bias
Yes.
of our city.
Mhm.
And for me, I've actually felt as though it's been on purpose, because if America was an experiment, and for me it was, if America was an experiment, I feel as though Baltimore is the control.
Mm.
Like, you can give the antidote and do all these different testings and give different trials to all of these other people, cities, states, folks. We have the ability to change the outcome based off ourselves, like what comes out of what
Yes.
we're doing. So Baltimore is I look at it as the social impact capital of the world.
Mm.
This is the place that you come to solve world's problems.
Yeah.
We've got a formula here. Um, but I digress. I can get. Oh, you told me not to read the questions, and now I'm reading. You told
You
me.
read it. This is Zach. He's he's going to be on, he's a gem. He just co-wrote a book about caregiving. So hopeful joy asking
Thank you,
questions.
man. I'm nervous
Ah.
to nobody's business, because the thing of being unmuted can fall into, whoa. All right, we're Tim at? Tim, pull it. Um,
We're going to
so
screenshot that one. Anyways.
it's it's interesting to me, because unmuted for me falls into, it's like a cousin of unfiltered.
Yeah.
And because I think so, I'm so in my head. Like, I used my father corrected me, and I love the correction. I was like, because I love talking to myself. And I talk out loud. I enjoy it. And I was like, Daddy, I like me. I like me. And he was like, Dionne, what it is that you love the love in you.
Mm.
And I was like, yeah, I do love the love in me, Daddy. So that has always been quintessential. Dionne Joyner-Weems is like a Tribe Called Quest. You got to say it all together. That's always been me.
Yeah.
But when 2015, now I have 3 children. I'm responsible for telling the city's story. And Freddie Gray, I had taken a trip. It was actually a conference in New York. We were working on a really huge campaign to launch in the spring of 2015. And we had I'm in marketing, so it's a lot of strategy building and pre-planning, and it was 9 months to get to that point. And I left for the conference to actually speak about Baltimore in New York, and everyone is excited about me speaking, but they're coming up to me and they're talking to me up the wire. No shade. I'm just saying that every attendee of this huge conference in New York are excited about seeing me on the bill, but all they want to talk to me about is the wire. I'm like, well, for Dionne, let's reframe this. Do you know how much talent that show is? Baltimore has a gift
Mm-hmm.
in sharing reality. Like, forget reality TV.
Yeah.
Baltimore knows how to, but we know how to package an authentic story and deliver it to you in a way for you to digest it so quickly, so fast, that you actually, without being a part of this experience, you feel as if you have a say. And that is our gift. And at times I feel like it can be a bit of a curse, because until you are here, and I can tell you even from like stats, but they say, when people visit Baltimore, one trip to the city of Baltimore and you're back, because to know it is to love it, but you have to know it for yourself, not through the media, not secondhand. You have to experience it for yourself. Or the work that I do, make the people within your city so adamant and empowered and excited about who they are and what they have, that it overpowers any outside perception bias. So,
Yes.
you,
Yes.
we are, I have always, my mother is a storyteller, like taking from the true African griot, like to understand the birth of storytelling is how Black people have actually been able to communicate our history. So I take joy and love in that. But I tell people that no one can tell your story. No one should be able to. No one should be able to tell your story better than you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're allowing them to do that, I need for you to know to take that back.
Yeah.
Own your narrative.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
it's I'm rambling. Rachel, you gotta
You're not rambling. What I'm thinking through is something that you talked about. So much about this is about identity. Like when you were talking about what your dad said to you about like where you were from, right? It's like this is part of your identity, but this is not going to define you.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? And that's what so
Yes,
much
ma'am.
of I think so many of us we take on these things as we let that something that limits us define us and dictate who we're going to be or what we're capable of or what's possible for us in the world. That's a lot of what I'm hearing you say.
Yes.
But like we get to choose. Like that can all be happening. And at the end of the day, like we have the ability to be able to stand up and say, that's not my story, that's not my narrative, or this is how it is. So when when you think of your own experience, especially with motherhood, there was something your father wrote it was an endorsement on your book that I just thought was so fascinating. He said when Dionne was pregnant, she asked me, what am I gonna do? And I told her it was in front of her to do what was in front of her, and her children would let her know what they needed.
My father is very simple in the fact of I remember with the birth of Sean, my oldest, and my concern of, I was excited about having a boy, but then immediately because of I'm 2010, 20, I'm understanding the world that I'm sending my son into, and I'm fearful.
Yeah.
And I want him to turn out to be a wonderful person. And I remember, crying on the phone with my father, all the things that I wanted my son to be. And my father said, Dionne, if you want to have an interesting child, just be an interesting person. Because all they're looking at you. Just watch. They're watching you. But I wanted to, Rachel, beyond just this conversation, you've helped me frame that part a little better, because I've been talking about that you're following my diary. When you read the book, it's actual pages from my diary written over that time, and you get to see me figuring this shit out and going back in time and coming forward with different information. But now that I'm speaking to you, it's taking me to the pandemic. And the reason I want to bring up the pandemic is because I've been talking about this to friends. I've never said this publicly, but we vibing. So let's see here. So I was listening, there was some research, and I heard that over that so at the height of the pandemic, when we are under quarantine, it was strict, not this lackadaisical social distancing. I mean, like we were cut everywhere, right? It was said that if in that time period, people did not take that time to go within, if they didn't do any of that retrospective work, like the fact that now you're with your family 24/7, and it's starting to trigger and bring things back that you were able to distract yourself with work, with activities, with friends. But when God shut everything down and made you sit, if you did not take what was revealed to you and work on that, look at that as a way to improve, they're saying that those folks are doing a little bit worse than everyone else. And I was like, but now I understand. For me, you're helping me. Those first 5 years of motherhood, for me, it is like you don't leave the house. Like you're with your child. You're going through depression. It's engorged breath. Like it is an experience. You're dealing. I tell people, sleep deprivation is like a form of punishment. Like so I'm just saying, I was going through that, not sleeping, and it made me reflect on some of the stories that you hear about young mothers or young parents, and you say to yourself, I don't understand how they could snap. I don't. It's so easy to judge until you find yourself in that space and feel so overwhelmed, like, my God, I don't know what to do, how to do it. I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm sore, all of these things. But now I'm realizing that was the work that I was doing. In those first 5 years of motherhood, God forced me through childbirth to be still. I
Mm.
was the most still that I had ever been in my life. Um, I've always been a high achiever because I'm like, well, you know, what's the end goal here? Well, whatever the end goal is, that's what I want. Like, it's not even trying to be, you get what I'm saying?
And the highest goal is not just the end goal. It's got to be what is the best possible outcome. I want to go a
Yeah,
level above that.
correct. So, and that's where Dionne will be. And I'll be there as long as I have to be, as long as I'm focused. Like, I am an air, like I said, I'm an Aries through and through. All the great, bad, and ugly. It is
Yeah.
all in me. But this thing of once I lock in,
Mm.
I'm gone. But I'm taking your show to actually
Yeah.
give myself clarity and the fact that it was God forcing me to reflect. I had to go back to, like I said, I'm meeting all these different forms of
Mm.
Dionne who I had forgotten.
Yeah.
Some of them I had to. You were talking about like your music video.
Mm-hmm.
I've always loved to sing. I've always had a sense of humor. I've always loved writing and poetry. But I realized in the corporate space, which I had been for, over 16 years,
Mm-hmm.
I'd always been the youngest, the only African American female in a lot of my spaces.
Mm.
Um, and with time, you don't, or I won't say you, for me, I did not realize how much I was truly shouldering,
Mm.
or how heavy the armor was. Whatever to you, I may have been viewed as successful to you.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever it was that I had to do in dealing with the microaggression to get there, it was a toll that did not hit me
Mm.
until being still.
Mm.
And it was in being still that you actually get to see, when metal, I'm not trying to get, it's true. Metal on skin, you can't have raw metal on skin for a long period. It bruises, it cuts, it blisters.
Yeah.
And that was a period of time for me. And out of it, though, if you're able, like I said, you don't have to have children to have a second life. What I
Mm.
am saying is that in everyone's experience, you're going to reach a low point. And growing up, it was always said to me, until man has to reach beyond himself, like when he
Mm.
reaches rock bottom,
Mm-hmm.
he has got no, like there's nothing of me that
Mm-hmm.
could possibly get me out of this.
Yep.
When you are able to reach beyond, it changes fucking everything.
It does. It change it. It fundamentally changes you. Like when you go through the thing that you're like, I didn't know. Because I know there's things that you're going to be able to share. I want to share something briefly, but then I want to hear from you of like, what are some of the things that we're just not talking about that need to be talked about, right? That you experience. Because when I think about what you were saying here with that bottoming out, a lot of people on the show know this that have come regularly, but I was involved in the spring of 2020, was out running with my husband. They're like, get outside and move. And I got hit by a pickup truck while I was running and I fractured my back. And it was a time where we were just so isolated. And so it was me and my husband. And my husband's elementary school teacher. He's teaching virtual gym from our basement behind a computer to 5-year-olds for a year. Like nobody signed up for that role for teaching. Like that was a nightmare. And then he's caregiving for me. And I, by the way, had just left a corporate job to start my own business 7 months before all this happened. And it was like, figure it out, and it was just this time of like, really? But it was that experience where I was like reconnecting to music because I couldn't move the way I wanted to. And I needed an outlet.
Yeah.
And the outlet for me was music. And then in September of this year, 3 years after the accident, I released a second song called Didn't See It Coming, which is about those blindside moments, right? So it's like when you go to that point of like, if someone had told you, hey, this is gonna happen, but you're gonna make it out. But like, this is all, you'd be like, no,
Right.
thank you.
That's the thing. You are not going to sign up for that. No, where Dionne is in 2023 or 2024, if you put a list of the things I have gone through to say, but you're going to be on the podcast with Rachel, and I'm like, no, no, I tap out. But that's you had made a point that I had lost, but caregiving. I don't want to lose that.
Yeah.
I am starting to hear. Well, one, I do feel as though those folks between, I would say like 35, 35, 45, give or take 5 years on both sides of the spectrum. Like this is your time. Like if you were waiting for a politician to come and save you or a new idea, like it's you. This time. So the what you are the change that you want to see. I know that we've heard that over and over and over again, but I'm like, no, it really is. I talk to people when I'm talking to young people in Baltimore, I'm like, hey, you do understand when you think about Dr. King and other leaders, they were like 20, right? Like you do because it can be viewed as these old, lived, withered people that I'm like, no, they're 19 years old, like standing on business, putting their lives on the line for what they truly believe. And guess what? That's in you too.
Yes.
That's in you too. But I don't want to forget the care. Not to realize how hard it is for the caregiver. When now you have children, but now you're required to take care of your parents, right? So you're dealing with your marriage, your children, your children's lives, your life, and let's say you still have some dreams that you're trying to attain, and now you're looking at your parents or someone who you love and care for who needs your care.
Yeah.
That there is a growing group of caregivers that are on their last line. They're exhausted, they feel unseen, and we don't talk about it enough. And I don't want to. You asked that question. It's off point of that part, but it has been a conversation that I have been having, and that was the specific thing. What are we not talking about? One of them is the role of the caregiver, the health of the caregiver. What support are we giving to caregivers? Like so.
Well, there's a good news on that. Side note, Zach Demopoulos, you see his name come up. I have a question from him too, but he's going to be on the show with the co-author of his book that they wrote about caregiving. They're going to be on the show next month, specifically on that topic. See? So planting a seed, didn't even know it. We did not script this, people, but like, that's what Zach goes, now you're talking my language. Caregiver can be described thousands of ways. They need advocacy and audacity. Dropping your language. And here's what he asked. He said, I love that you use audacity in your title. Some may take that in a negative way that have not met you. I can see you use it in a powerfully positive way, and naysayers can, let's see, can you know what? How do you handle that as you grow your brand? Curious.
That is so crazy because the thing is, I was thinking about that last week because I don't want to like disrupt your viewers. Like I said, this is my first like real podcast. I've done radio.
Anything. The show's called Unmute Yourself. We say let it shine. It's for you.
But for me, in an age of Trump, to have a company called Audacity, in an age where we're seeing things that we know is absolutely not right. Like the world can seem completely upside down. And you're calling yourself it's audacity. I'm like, but you know what? There are levels to audacity. And for me, you can have the audacity for good or you can have the audacity for bad. Like I really do feel as though we're living in a time right now where God is literally asking you to make a choice. What you know to be right and what you know to be wrong. I don't want to hear nothing about no gray areas. What you know in the center of your chest that you wouldn't want done to you or people that you love. It's not just you have to take action now. I'm expecting you to take action. So an audacity is required in order to take bold action, just as on low levels. So for frequency, My audacity is a high frequency audacity.
I don't know what you're talking
For
about.
others, they're a
I haven't felt
low.
that at all.
They're low. They're a low vibration.
Mm.
Low vibration audacity, Dionne don't deal with. High vibration, that's where you'll find me.
Mm. So when it comes to, it's so interesting. You know, someone's commented, Janine said, isn't it interesting that audacity means both a willingness to take bold risks and rude or disrespectful behavior, impudence? The irony is not lost on me.
I need to, y'all, that is really, yeah.
We can make sure we'll copy that. The chat, all that'll be available afterwards.
And
So
see,
you can.
now I'm getting into my design head because I'm seeing audacity, but now these two sides of the same word, like, oh, she got me going. Okay, good. Bring me back. Bring me back.
So that part. So when you think about, when you think about motherhood in particular, right? There's so many just like stigmas and perceptions. Like I had a conversation with a friend who had a second child, right? Has a young child, had a second child, and was a little bit anxious about it in the first place, and then dealt with some postpartum, what she was describing as like all the assessments they give you are asking if you're sad. She's like, but I'm like angry. Like, I don't like this child because he's like not behaving. He doesn't sleep. All this, you know what I mean? And it's like you can't talk about that or you're an unfit mother. So like let's go into it. Let's like over the next 15 minutes, let's talk about some of the stuff that people don't talk about.
Okay. So that it's okay to step away. Mm-hmm. I believe the perception is that once you have a child, that you come in built for it. Yeah, you were able to bring the child through, but what they're about to show you, this is a whole new experience for you. So for me, like they say, you don't cry over spilled milk. When you're breastfeeding and that milk is like liquid gold, it changes how you look at what could be viewed as mistakes. There were times that I thought it was a mistake in me being a mother. Not to go to give, I don't know, like giving away the arc of the story, but it's to understand that when I found out one child was fine, I was excited about my baby. And I wanted to have a second because I have a younger brother and I know the benefit of being able to have somebody that you can talk shit to about your parents too, and they get it. You can keep it in the family, right? And I wanted to give my children that because I'm like, y'all gonna need it. My son Sean was going to need somebody. So I was great, but when I found out that we were having twins, I'm a big Harry Potter fan, and I love the way that the picture frames, you could actually see the people moving. It was as you truly captured it, that's how the frames were. I could see everything that I had set up in my life shattering all around me. When I'm laying there and she's like, hey, do you see these two heartbeats? It was so scary that the doctor left. And my husband was like, I don't even think that's like against the Hippocratic, like you're not supposed to do that. And I did not speak for about 6 months of the pregnancy. And I didn't look at ultrasounds, couldn't look at pictures. I couldn't look at my son because I felt as though I was crowding him out. How am I going to raise 3 children? The money alone, the responsibility. And it came to this point where I actually had this question of God, if I was even meant to carry these children. And what I find ironic is that, again, I'm not quick to judge. I've never been quick to judge. But when you do find yourself in situations where you know that other people have such a quick response to something that brings you great pain and turmoil, that was a challenge for me. And in the book, I talk about arguing with God. Like I was mad. I was pissed because you of all people know me. And I remember actually having this dream and talking to God, and it's a deaf poet that I referenced in the book. and he talks about how it's a boxing match that he's having with God. He's talking about, you gave my mother cancer, and I had to live on the street. And he's like giving blows and blows to God for all the pain that he had viewed in his life. And at the end of the poem, he looks in the mirror, and God is like, to look and see that the bruises were on him. They weren't on God, they were on him, because God was within him. I've always been there in those moments. I've always been there. So it hit me in this moment of, look, I can't be a mother to these children. In that moment, I came out and was like, God is in me. So Rachel saying the same God and everyone is in me. So making that choice to continue on with the pregnancy, it's even hard to say it out loud because I have my sons and they know this, right? Yeah. Mom, how does that make me look as a parent? The fact that there was a point where I didn't want you here. But to have enough clarity to understand that, Rachel, life is going to keep lifing. That wasn't the intent. And it was only through going through these experiences that I was able to understand, one, I'm not a horrible person. You're not a horrible person for feeling. Yeah. We have literally forgot how to feel. You get as soon as you feel the anger, gone. Yeah. As soon as you feel the sadness, get away from it. And it was in those 5 years that I sat with it. Wait a minute. Am I really angry? Or wait a minute, is it more of a sadness? Where's that sadness coming from? Oh, and the quieter I got, the deeper I was able to go. And people do not encourage folks to feel it. Like as soon as I started talking about depression, and not knocking, my family my grandfather's a deacon. Down south is my. But to know, shoot, I lost my train of thought there. What was the last thing I said?
You're saying like your family's a deacon, like you're like talking about dealing with depression and stuff, like
so,
the religious component of that. I would imagine you're about to.
The thing was, you're not faithful enough.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
you're not praying enough.
Yeah.
So now I have guilt because I'm like, gosh, now I don't have faith. Now I don't believe. And no, you need to see a therapist. No, you need medication. And I remember telling my mommy, like, sometimes you need a prescription and Psalms. Like I can read the 23rd Psalm and take a prescription. It's okay. God created both of it. But those are some real come to Jesus conversations that I had, because depression is for so long for me, it's viewed as weakness. And just being a Black woman in this space that I am, that we don't even get and I'll change my language, because this is what's happened as far as, what have I learned now that they don't talk about as much. But I can feel a trend of for me, I had to own the fact that, no, I have gone through a lot. This is not me making an excuse or the woe is me. Society makes you feel like, all right, wrap it up, move it on. And I'm like, that's the damage. Yeah. Until you take the time to go within, until you take the time, your feelings are telling you something. Yeah. These emotions are trying to get you to a place, but you're so scared that you'll distract yourself. You're running from it. And guess what? Your life is never going to be as full until you understand they ain't going nowhere. And the thing is, they're not here to hurt you. And I had to form a relationship with my feelings and my emotions. I had to hug myself. I had to apologize to myself. I had to, for me personally, I put so much on myself and put myself into so many situations just because I believed I wasn't good enough. Or I believed that I shouldn't be here. Or I believe that the success that I have has been given to me. Why? Well, one, when the world is telling you that, what am I going to do? So I'm like, I took those things in internally and externally, like, I tried to come out confident and stuff, but it was still there. And guess what? Dionne was so busy trying to project and get through that I never even took the time to embrace the fact that, girl, you are hurt.
Yes.
You did cry. Go ahead. Let's get this.
Yes. Like,
Hey, come on.
yeah,
Get it out.
yes. Yes.
So that then we can stand.
Yes.
But it's okay. So I will say that part for me is it's being able to look at all of your parts and embrace them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that with purpose. When you know what it is that you are here for, or maybe you don't know what you're here for, but when you know what it is that you have, when you know what you're good at, when you know whatever this knack is, take that.
Yeah.
That's your gift. Now use that to make life better for others around you.
Yeah.
And I say that whether you're a singer, like, that's your gift. Okay. Make life better for those around you and watch how success will come to you. As long as you follow that formula in any basketball play, you're good at basketball, great. As long as you use that gift to be of service to others around you, watch.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm giving it time. I told you I can talk, and I feel so off topic.
Well, and I don't like, I just so you know, and Tim can attest to this. He's been, I don't know how many shows, 50 shows with me. I'm not an interrupter. I believe that if someone is in the process of saying a thing, I'm an external processor also. So I sometimes figure it out as I talk it out, and I don't necessarily know what I want to say until it comes out, and I'm like, oh, that's what I wanted to say.
What do you call that?
External processing.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
When we think it out, sometimes we got to talk it out to figure. I like to say, like, we got to talk it out to figure it out. Like that's so I get that and I connect to that. So that's what I'm not here to interrupt. I think a lot of what you were saying is so much of. I know we've talked about different episodes of the show before, and so much what I believe. My background's in well-being. I was in corporate well-being for 13 years before doing what I do now, and I burned out and got mono. As the director of well-being at my company in 2017, lost my voice for a period of time, like was in a place of being silenced, not by choice, but needed to happen. And I had a friend at the time say to me, this is a friend from church, she called me after one Sunday and she said, I just need to tell you this. I feel like I'm supposed to tell you this, that maybe there's something you're supposed to hear, but you have to get quiet enough in order to be able to hear it. And I'm not sure what that means for you, but I felt like it was put on I was supposed to tell you that. And I was like, oh, yep. Well, I lost my voice here. And you have to slow down and be quiet. And so much of it, to your point, we're running from our feelings. And I've heard it said that we have to, if you want to heal it, you got to feel it. Like if you want to heal it, you got to feel it. And so many of us are like, I do not want to feel the intensity of that emotion because if I feel any of it, I'm going to be overcome. It's going to be like a wave that's going to crash over me and I'm not going to be able to get out of it. But the reality is,
it's not true.
That's not true.
It's not true.
That's not true.
And that's what I will say. And I'll feel better in ending in this point. There was an African proverb that I discovered, and there's no such thing as coincidences. Like even with Zach's comment, there's always confirmations. Like for me, that's a confirmation to Dionne that the next thing that I'm going to do today is the next thing that I'm supposed to do today. Yeah. That's how I go through life. Zach God spoke through him, and so to say, Dionne, keep going, you're good. Yeah. But in 2015 with Freddie Gray, I'm out of Sandtown. We're coming from the same part of West Baltimore. I have these 3 children. I'm responsible for telling the city's story while being a part of the city that we weren't reflecting, we weren't looking at until CNN came in. We were not looking. And the proverb was, until the lion learns to speak, every story will always glorify the hunter. And I'm
Say
like,
that one more time. Say that one more time.
Until the lion learns to speak, every story will always glorify the hunter. And it made me look at myself, my community, my space. And I'm like, well, when you're not able to understand the emotion, the pain, the trauma, the lived experience, the barriers. To you, all you're seeing is vroom.
Mhm.
So for Dionne, it was to be the voice of the lions. Allow me to
Mm.
translate, because one thing that I'm good at is feeling.
Mm.
I feel a lot. Empath, that's so allow me to feel so that we can translate this into a solution
Yeah.
because it's there. But
Mhm.
we're all dealing with feelings that we obviously cannot communicate with.
Yeah.
That part, this gave me an opportunity and a way to do it. For someone else, it may be in a different form, but we're all going to hit the same point. We're
Mhm.
all going to be given an opportunity. Now, it's how you look at it, but you're going to get an opportunity to either be better or bitter.
Mhm.
And between those choices is going
Mhm.
to determine the rest of your life.
Yes.
So that's
So we're gonna drop the
thank
mic.
you, Rachel.
Like for real though, but that's what it is. We have the choice no matter the circumstance. I often say it's like we don't choose what happens to us, we choose how we respond. And so
Yeah.
it's like you can choose to be better or you can choose to be bitter. Like,
Mhm.
and guess what? Nobody else has to really like live with the fullness of that decision except you.
Ooh, it's on you. Ella Fitzgerald had a song, Red Wagon. That's your red wagon. You got to
Mm.
pull it along. I'm go.
And you can keep filling it with stuff and it's going to keep getting heavier, or you can clean it out if you want to, or you can just
But guess what? It's yours.
it's yours.
Either way, it's yours.
Yeah.
Like my husband lost his grandmother, 92
Mm.
years old. We buried her in Alexandria, Virginia, where
Mhm.
it was the most beautiful ceremony. The soldiers, because the military family, and
Yeah.
she lived a life of service, a great life of service. And at the end, oh, I can never, Alzheimer's,
Mm.
dementia just
Yeah.
hit, and she was not able to recognize her daughter, her grandson, me, grandchildren, and she turned into it. It was we were introduced to a new Grandma Burke. Like she
Mm.
wasn't the one that we remembered, but now we got this new one with this new personality. She cursed. I did like that part about it. Like she wasn't feisty.
They're like,
The
okay,
second
some
version was
audacity.
a feisty woman. But I say all this to say that was such an all moment, because I'm like, Dionne, you could live the rest of your life and have been an asshole and not remember it. You could live the rest of your life and been a Nobel Peace Prize winner and not remember it.
Mm.
So why are you going to second guess yourself now? Like, chick, really, really? So it's dump dump. That's Dionne unmuted.
There we go. We got it. Talking about that audacity, talking about that part. Where can people? We're going to drop your social links.
Please,
And
yeah.
tell us where can we find it. Tim's going to drop the social links into the
Now
chat.
I want y'all to go to DionneJoyner-Weems.com and you can get your signed copy. Come on, guys. Let's get the signed copy at DionneJoyner-Weems.com. I'll see you there.
That's
Your
where
book
you
is
can
waiting. That
find
part.
it. That's a beautiful
I
cover
got you.
too. And side note, Zach wrote, he said, I served a drink to Miss Ella as a waiter and spoke to her for a few minutes. She would love you, Dionne. Big smile.
I'm shaking. I love that woman. I love that woman.
Dude, like, Zach is you gotta, to
Yeah,
know him is to love him. He's in New Jersey. He said everybody out. He used to talk about Baltimore on the Wire. He's like, everybody asks me that's Sopranos because I'm in New Jersey.
again, a great, well-written show. I'm like, let's talk about the creativity of it.
Right, but it's
Thank
like not
you.
everything, you know what I'm saying? So
No,
so there's that. So I just want to say thank you for being with us
thank you.
today. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for talking about pieces of that part. If everyone wants to get the rest of it, you can go buy the book and read it and share it with a friend. And anything else you want to share? Anything else you want to leave us with? You left us with so much wisdom already, but is there anything else that you want to share before we close the show today?
I love you. Love yourself.
Mm. That's beautiful. How about just like my yoga instructor on Peloton, her name's Chelsea Jackson Roberts. She does these self-love hugs in all of her sessions. So how about everybody just take a moment, you're with us, give yourself a self-love hug. This is what I do. We go from like warrior two. She's like, give yourself a self-love hug. It's like, no matter
I
what
love
kind of
this.
day
Feels
you're
good.
having,
This
it
feels
feels
good.
good, doesn't it? Just like
Oh, and I'm getting a nice crack of the back.
a little back rub, get all like handsy with your, no, but
Thank you so much, Rachel.
You
I
know.
hope to talk to you again.
Yes, likewise. Everybody, we'll see you in 2 weeks where we have our guest, Dr. Amy Apigian, who was supposed to be with us in December, talking about the biology of trauma. So looking forward to that in 2 weeks, everybody. Zach wants a signed copy in person, but he'll get one online. So there's that, Dionne.
Thank you. Not a problem.
Boom, boom. It's happening. Dionne, thank you for everything. Everybody, thank you for being here. We will see you all in 2 weeks. Bye.